need to educate your members of Congress, your other representatives. So, before I close, I just want to talk a little bit about a legend. Legend, Davy Crockett and a guy named Horatio Bunce. Isn't that a great name? Horatio Bunce. We don't have names like that anymore. Well, one day, Davy Crockett, the legend, this is from a book called The Life of Colonel Davy Crockett, published in 1884. And as Davy Crockett himself tells the story, one night he's standing on the steps of the Capitol with some other members of Congress, and they see a fire over in Georgetown. And they did, what you'd expect our members of Congress to do today. They jumped in, what was then horse-drawn vehicles, and raced over to Georgetown to help put the fire out. Well, unfortunately, they got there too late. A lot of houses were destroyed, a lot of families left homeless. So what'd they do? Well, the next day, Congress appropriated $20,000 for the sufferers of this fire. Well, nobody thinks too much of this, and then, it's time for campaigning again, so Davy Crockett goes back to his district, and he's riding around looking for people to talk to get some support, and he runs into this man, Horatio Bunce. He starts to introduce himself, and Horatio Bunce says, "Oh, I know who you are, you're Colonel Crockett." He calls him Colonel. Back in the days before Ma'am Boxer, people actually wanted to be called something more respectable than senator or congressman. "Colonel, I know who you are, and I voted for you once, but I'll never vote for you again." Well, Davy Crockett's really taken aback by this. Why? And Mr. Bunce says, "Well, you voted for a bill that was unconstitutional." And Davy Crockett says, "I don't think I ever did any such thing." He says, "Oh, you didn't vote for $20,000 for victims of a fire?" And Davy Crockett says, well, sure I did. I thought that was the last vote that anybody would condemn me for. And Horatio Bunce explains to him, public charity is not in the Constitution, and money from the public treasury is not yours to give. Well, they argue about it for a little bit. Davy Crockett, first he tries to make some excuses, but Bunce has got him. It's not in the Constitution, and it's not their money to give. Horatio Bunce convinces Davy Crockett that he's been in error. Davy Crockett tells him, well, you've got me, I apologize for this vote, if you give me a second chance and elect me again, if I ever vote for another unconstitutional bill, I wish that I would be shot. Well, Horatio Bunce tells him, well, you acknowledging that you've erred does a lot more good than defeating you with somebody else. So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to support you. They get together. They have a barbecue. Horatio Bunce gets 1,000 men there. Davy Crockett gives a speech where he explains his conversion. Horatio Bunce endorses him. He gets reelected. Later another public charity bill comes before Congress. Davy Crockett, even though he's one of the least wealthy men in Congress, he gives out of his own pocket and votes against the bill. Why was Horatio Bunce so effective? Well, he held firm. He held his principles. He said, yes, this is a very heart-moving thing, widows and orphans from a fire. It doesn't matter. It's not in the Constitution. You want to give to them? Give out of your pocket, not out of the people's pocket. But think about the things Horatio Bunce didn't say to Davy Crockett. He didn't say, oh, well, I heard you got to ride in the presidential stagecoach. That must have been really cool, so I can understand it. He didn't say, well, you brought some really great railroad money to our district, so way to go. He didn't say, well, I know you're angling, for a leadership position, and you'll be in a much better position to help us out, so I understand it was worth it. He didn't say, well, I'll take a look at the other guy who's running and see which one of y'all violates the Constitution a little bit less, and then I'll vote for whichever one of y'all is the lesser of two evils. No, he didn't say any of that. He held firm to his principles. He knew what he was talking about, he held firm, and he converted Davy Crockett, showed him the error of his ways. Well, that's what we need to be doing. We need to know what we stand for. We need need to know what's in the Constitution. We need to understand the principles. We need to be willing to go toe-to-toe with our elected representatives. Let them know. We're not going to let them weasel out. We're not going to let them say, oh, but you know, it was such a hard-moving case. We're not going to say, oh, well, you know, you generally vote our way, so okay. But we're going to hold firm, hold their feet to the fire on principles. That's what we need to be doing. That's what's going to change things. Can you imagine what things would be like if we'd had a nation of Horatio Bunces all along? And do you think we'd have had this big Obamacare? Do you think we'd have had the bailout? No, we wouldn't have had a bailout because we wouldn't have had a Community Reinvestment Act, and we wouldn't have had Fannie and Freddie, and we wouldn't have had all the stuff that supposedly made the bailout so necessary. So that is what I believe every person here can do best. Educate yourself, educate the people around you, educate your members of Congress, let them know you believe in these principles, and if they don't, then they're going to be out. Thanks so much for everything.